Well,
So thank you very much, Tina and Steph. Thank you for having me at today's Visitor Day. Thank you to everybody who's come to hear and support me. I have a very, very brief slide presentation, and it's going to be pretty interactive. So, so I'm going to start. It basically, the issue is, are you reaching your sales goals? You ask that to people and everybody says, yeah, I'm reaching all my sales goals. Sure I am. Are you really? And that's the question. So if I ask the question, how many of you are reaching your sales goals? By a show of hands, how many would say yes? And I mean really reaching your sales goal. One? I can't see everybody, but I see one. Okay. Well, let's start with the beginning of it. How do you prepare for a sales call? I mean, do you just go in there and wing it? Do you just go in there and say, well, I've done this for 35 years, or like Jim was saying before, or do you have a plan? Do you have a process that you use in order to make that sales call? So how many of you actually prepare? And what does that mean to prepare for a sales call? Anybody? Feel free to chime on in. What do you do to prepare for a sales call?
Know your client.
What does that mean, Arthur?
Do research on them. What do they do? How do they get their business? Where are they located? What's their environment? You know, what are their challenges?
Arthur knows me, so he knows he's been through this with me already. So
Check him
and
out
I
on
didn't pay him to do that.
Exactly, Stephanie. You look at them on LinkedIn. You look at any websites that they're associated with, any professional certifications or licensures that they have, to see exactly what they've been doing and where they're at.
Great, Dennis.
Yeah.
I see you had your hand up.
This is very interesting. I've been in sales for a very, 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 very long time. But a friend of mine taught me a very important lesson many, many years ago. I called him as a friend, you know, hey, what I was doing, and I said, you know, I want to come and see you. And he said, okay, you want to come and see me, you want to sell me your product. What do you know about me? What are you going to come and talk to me about? And that just like the bell went off, and I said, okay, yeah, I have to study, I have to research, I have to figure out what do they need? Why am I going there? What, you know, if he's going to give me time, I have to bring some value to him. So
Great. Last one, David.
Yeah, the one thing I would add also is trying to see what's top of mind for them, especially when at the beginning of a call, you're trying to bond with them. I look at their social media, see what they posted on LinkedIn, or any videos they've made, or anything that shows that I've done some read their about them. So I know what their interests are, or just find that, you know, what we learned in Master Networks about finding that common thread. So I do a little bit of research just beyond the company, just see if I can find something to connect with them right away in the conversation.
Great, thanks. So what I put on here is a sales process, and there are several steps in a sales process. And what you do is, what you want to start with an objective and then the result. In between is what you're doing to achieve that objective and get the result you want. So the first step is an introduction. If you can start with a soundbite like we do in Master Networks, or an elevator pitch, the purpose of that is simply to get people to want to spend more time with you. Just plain and simple. It's not to tell them everything about you. It's not to list everything that you do. It's basically to make it so people are going to want to spend more time with you. The second step we do in Master Networks is bond. A face-to-face meeting, whether it's Zoom or in person. Bond, build on common interests, opportunity exploration, needs discovery, and then develop the opportunity. It's really to develop rapport. That's the purpose of that second step. Now, depending upon the business model that you're in, this entire process can be done in 1 step or 2 steps, or it may take 10 steps. But your objective in this face-to-face is to develop rapport. At the end, in order to get to that needs discovery, right, your objective is to develop rapport. You gotta be likable. Jeffrey Gitomer says, we buy from people we know, like, and trust. The third step is developing or discovering their pain point. What's their pain point? Now, one of the things I'm going to refer to Robert Larson here, who's a dental attorney. Basically, when I talk about with customers, what's their pain point? I know I'm going to age myself here, but how many of you have gone to a dentist and you have a cavity and they don't have Novocaine? So they drill into the tooth and they reach that nerve. And if they expose that nerve, it's really painful. Once they expose the nerve, there is pain. So what is their pain point? Now, I know I had a client who told me what their pain point was, but that wasn't really their pain point. They were a pretty large computer refurbishing company, and they said they were having a problem with the customer service people, that they were going through them like crazy, and everybody was complaining about their customer service. When we went through it and really found their pain point, what we discovered was it wasn't their customer service that was a problem. They were putting out lousy products. They were putting out things that weren't what they said they were. I mean, if you were to buy a computer online and it said it had, 32 megabytes or gigabytes of RAM, and it only had 8, who are you calling? You're calling the customer service department to complain. Why did they call you in the first place? Why did they get in touch with you in the first place? And then what you really have to do is figure out and really identify how much is their pain point really costing them. You have to quantify it. How much does it cost you with what's going on in your business? What's going on in the products that you're buying? Once you find all that, you can just determine, do you have something that's going to resolve their need? Which takes you to the next step, which is, how do you resolve their need? How can you help them? Do you have a solution? And if you do, dating back to how much is the pain point really costing them, how much money can you save them? In the end of the day, if you're selling, people want to see the value. They want to know dollars spent versus what I'm getting for it. It's about value. And if you can deliver value, whether it's doing something a better way or saving them money to resolve their pain point, there's a much better chance that you have of getting the order. Now, a long time ago, there was a questionnaire for managers, purchasing managers at major corporations. And basically they were asked, you know what? There are some people that come in here as salespeople and they are asked, they do a great presentation. And when they're done with the presentation, they say, thank you very much, and they leave. They major flaw, and that is they never ask for the order. We got to ask for the order. Just because you did a great presentation doesn't mean that they're going to give you the order and say, here it is, here's the order. So at this point, get them to yes or get them to no. The second major mistake is someone's ready to say yes, and then you as a salesperson keep talking and you end up talking yourself out of an order. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again. If they say yes, shut up and take the order. I see Dennis shaking his head. Yes, obviously he's seen this, right? If they say yes, shut up and take the order. Stop talking. And if they say no, find out why. It could simply be that you don't have a better solution to their problem. It could also be that you haven't asked the right questions to get to their pain point, to give them a solution and show them how much money it could save them. The idea, though, is to get them to yes or get them to no. It's the in-between, call me in 3 months, call me in 6 months, I'll get back to you when I'm ready. No, get them to yes or get them to no, because the others are just time wasters. So by having a process in place and understanding what the steps are in the process, you have the ability to get from the introduction step to asking for the order. Don't skip the steps. Be prepared when you walk in the first time. If anybody wants to take a photo of this, feel free to use your phone and take a photo. I'll give you a moment to do it before I ask my final question. What action are you going to take? Oops, you want to go back? Dennis, go ahead. I see Dennis with his phone. Okay. What action are you going to take? What action will you take in order to develop or implement a sales process? I'll take comments. I thank you for listening, and I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to take questions. Rob.
What really resonated with me that somebody told me years and years and years ago when I was in advertising, and I was always have a blank contract in your bag when you go to these meetings. Don't say, well, we'll send you the contract, or, you know, you have to strike when the iron is hot, as it were. So, and that has helped me immensely, because I've been in meetings or presentations where they say, well, where do I sign? How do we get started? And you don't want, you know, you want to strike
Right
then and there.
Absolutely. David. You're on mute, David.
Okay, thank you. So question I have for you is regarding, you know, when they're ready to buy and you're not aware of it. And so clearly, if you go through the process you just outlined, yes, clearly when you get to that ask, if they say yes, okay, take the credit card, whatever. But what happens if someone you get on the phone with someone, or you schedule a conversation with someone and they already want the order? What's a good question at the beginning of the conversation where they're already, they don't need to have a 30-minute conversation. You don't need to do exploration. I mean, sure, you want to know, at least for yourself, what their pain point is. But if they're like, hey, listen, I want 3 video testimonials, I got my credit card in hand, let's go. I mean, still, I want to have clarity about why, you know, so I can better serve them. But is there a good question if they're ready, prepared to buy at the very beginning of the conversation to kind of minimize that workflow?
Well, I think depending upon the product or service that you're looking to sell, you can always, there's going to be a different piece to this. The time frame or the length of the sales process could change. It could be one step or 5 steps. Having said that, in this, you could always ask the question, right at the beginning, what is it going to take in order to get you to the point where you are ready to purchase? What do I need to do? And make it about you. What do I need to do in order to make it so that you are interested in doing business with us?
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Arthur.
You know, I was going to make a comment, your first comment that you brought up. When I first got into sales, I was about 23 years old, 24. And I read in a magazine, because we didn't have the internet. And the guy was talking about going into his first big appointment. And he flew to another city. He's in his hotel the evening before, and he decides to go to the library and do research on this company. It's like a Fortune 1000 company. And he wrote 10 questions that he needed to ask this guy. And the next morning he has the meeting, walks in, and he says, do you mind if I take out a piece of paper? I have some questions for you. And the CEO says, I have some questions for you. Let's swap papers. Turns out 8 of the 10 were the same identical thing. And the real answer here is just a little preparation goes a long way. You know, you don't need to know everything, but just a little effort shows what you're going to do after we close the deal. Now you're cementing the sale. I already cemented the sale before we even closed it.
It's what separates you from everybody else that goes in there and tries to sell them something.
So
Jim.
that always resonated all these years.
Jim,
Jim, great job as always. I actually have the opposite question of David's. What do you do with the guy who says, I need to think about it? I got to think it over.
mhm. So
Can't make
when
a decision.
when someone says they've got to think it over, generally what it means, not always, but generally what it means is that you have not answered their real pain point into a level that they feel comfortable to say yes. So one of the things that I would recommend in that case is when they say I need to think about it. So what is it that you need to think about? What is it that I have not done to enable you to make that decision? And put it on you, not on them. What do I need to do that will enable you to feel comfortable enough to get from maybe to yes? And by the way, just before the next set of questions, one of the things, a lot of times in that vein, Jim, a lot of times people will say, well, I tell you what, just send me a proposal and I'll get back to you. Don't do that. Again, depending upon the size of it. What I recommend to my clients is you make that appointment to come back and present your solution or your proposal. If it's a formal proposal, go back and do it in person. I had a client in the Hudson Valley that was doing stairs and railing. And basically, we instituted that policy where he would put the quote together and then go to the business or the homeowner and present it in person. Sales went up 35%, just based upon that fact. Because if you just send a proposal out, they've got 3 other proposals. The only thing that they're doing is they're comparing your price to everybody else's price. And you don't want to make it about price. Dennis.
So a couple of things. I used to sell technology to Fortune 500 companies. And there are 2 things. One is that I would be dealing with many different departments in the company. And even though everybody talked about this is what we want to accomplish, not everybody had the same goal or had the same concept of how they would get to that goal. So what I found out was, or what I did was, I try to find out who's paying for it, who's controlling the purse strings, because ultimately what it boiled down to is that's the person that's going to make the decision that I want to talk to.
Right. You want to talk to the decision maker, right? You don't want someone in the company making the sales presentation to the decision maker other than you. Absolutely. Tina.
I just want to make a comment and then I have a question for you. So it was funny, I had a website developer who wanted to talk to me, and this is early on when we didn't have a regional website. And so young person, they called me up and we were having this phone call and I said, so what did you think of this other website I had? And he goes, I didn't look at it yet. I figured we could, talk about it during, and I went, okay, no. I was like, you really need to do a little research. But the thing I wanted to ask you, Jim, was as far as like Master Networks is concerned, when you're in a meeting, how do you ask for people to join?
How do you ask people to join?
Join the chapter.
Join Master Networks?
Yeah.
Again, it's part of a selling process. You're developing rapport. You're talking about what they're looking for. You're finding out their pain point. And a lot of times the pain point is simply, I don't have enough people to market my business to. Okay, if that's your issue, well, we may have a solution for you. What are you doing in terms of finding more people to talk to? How do you expand your network? Come to a meeting.
But how about the actual asking them to join?
Asking for it's asking for the order. Once they come, they see what it's like. So do you think this would be beneficial for your business? We'd love to have you talk to you about joining. It's asking for the order. Asking for the order.
Thanks.